All right, guys. Hi, welcome. Dorothy here. Today I'm going to give a little lecture here on what Mercury is and just real simple info. I give this PowerPoint presentation a lot at events and holistic fairs and things like that. So it's just a real basic premise of the energy of Mercury. And since I'm a Gemini, kind of have a little special place in my heart for Mercury. So let me start by sharing the screen. Am I sharing the screen? Yes, not yet. Here we are. I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint presentation for Mercury. All right. So here we go. Let's just get started, and I hope you enjoy. And if you feel like making a quick little donation at the end of this on my website, please do so. I'd appreciate it. Blessings. Thank you. So Mercury, here in this lecture, what I'm going to cover is what he represents. I'll go pretty quick, so stay with me. The basic needs of the planet and what Mercury means in each of the zodiac signs. So I'll give you both. If you're born with it, this is what it means, right? And as a transiting planet means out there, right? Where it's moving around the zodiac with us and with the sun, what it means in that way too. And this is, again, a real quick demonstration. So we will have more if you were to take a class with me. All right, so let's get started. Now, one of the first things I like to do is bust some myths, okay? I use, most of us know not most of us, and there's so many different traditions of astrology. The thing is, the constellations are not the zodiac signs. Yes, they've been named really similarly, but they are not what we use in the tropical zodiac. I use the tropical zodiac. Lots of people use the tropical zodiac. The constellations and the zodiac belt are separated by about 24 degrees. And tropical zodiac is based on a place in space. I'll explain that in a moment. The constellations, when we use that in astrology, that is sidereal astrology. A lot of people are familiar with the Vedic traditions. They tend, most of them, not everybody, tend to use the sidereal system, which is based on the constellations. I'm using the tropical zodiac today, and that is based on places in space. So let me show you what I mean by that. So here is a picture of us on Earth, right? You can't quite see it, but the blue line here is the celestial equator. The celestial equator is, we take the equator of the Earth and we blow it out into space. And the red line that you can hopefully see here is the ecliptic. That's the path that the sun follows, that we can see. The sun goes through the solar system, right? He has a path from the equator, 23.5 degrees on each side, and he snakes his way through the solar system from one part and one beginning of the year till the end. The day that the sun is at that intersection of those two spheres, those two circles, is this moment that we have the first day of spring, and it's the first day of the zodiac belt. So that's 0 degrees of Aries. So right here where I have the sun placed was on March 20th, the year that I created this, which was 2018. And that is the position right there of Aries, 0 degrees of Aries. Straight across the chart from there is 0 degrees of Libra. It's called the equinox. That means the sun is equal daytime and nighttime, equal sun, northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere, because the sun is smack in the middle of its ecliptic path. That is it in a nutshell, really generic. Let's get on to Mercury, because that's what I promised. All right, Mercury, also known as Hermes, he carries the 3 parts of the whole. All of the planets carry the 3 parts of the whole, but since we're talking about Mercury, this is what we'll focus on right now. So we can see Mercury, whoopsies, I hit the wrong button, the cross of matter, that cross, this is the symbol for Mercury right here. So the cross of matter, which represents Earth, sits below the circle of spirit, the circle, that's the sun, and it is topped by the crescent of soul, that's the moon. So the sun, the moon, and the earth, those are the 3 things that we come together with that create Mercury. Now, if you were to take this crescent and flip it in, and then take that cross and flip it up, we get See if I can get this to do it. There we go. We get the symbol that astrology uses for the earth. And if I was to color these 4 sections in, you would recognize this as the medicine wheel. So to me, Mercury represents earth, represents the medicine wheel. This is just the way I like to see it, because it is just, communication is everything. All right. And so it is so important that we have these levels of communication. We're going to get to that in a minute. And again, it seems everything comes together. It's so hard for me to explain, but no, actually it's not. And that's what we have there. So Mercury is the thinker. Mercury is the communicator, the transmitter of information. He brings spirit into matter. That's because of that crown that's crescent above its head. It's receiving messages. Mercury is also our daily routine, processing all the thoughts that come and go throughout the day. That is Mercury in action, day in and day out. Mercury in the chart represents how we think and how we perceive our reality, right? It's different for everybody, how we receive messages and hear things and listen, and then how we communicate it back. So, are you an intuitive thinker? Are you intuitive, or are you a thinker? That's kind of what I have written here. Do you feel it before you speak about it? Do you prefer communicating in very concrete physical experiences? Everybody has a little bit of a different way of communicating and experiencing life. And Mercury is the first thing that we understand about infancy and our neighbors, the first cousins, because here Mercury is all about that. Again, intelligence, how we think things through, our logic, our reasoning, our perception, our communication. And I started talking about siblings because this is the people we usually first communicate with in our age group, is our siblings. It's outside of our parents or our first cousins. It's the neighborhood we live in and the short journeys that we take. All right, the techniques and skills that we have. That's Mercury. So in astrology, every planet is in charge of a zodiac sign, right? And so Mercury is in charge of 2, because we still only have 9 planets, and I'm still including Pluto, yes, and 12 zodiac signs. So some of these guys are still doing double duty. Traditionally, everybody did double duty except the sun and the moon. So, because we only had planets to Saturn. But Mercury is in charge of Gemini and the 3rd house, and Virgo and the 6th house. We know in astrology, with the astrology wheel is divided up because of where and when you were born into 12 different slices, like a piece of pizza or pie. Each of those houses, I like to refer to them as rooms in a house, have a duty, just like every room in your house has a duty. And I'm going to do a little lecture like this on the houses too. So that will be coming up when I get to it. Sooner than later, though. So Mercury is in charge of Gemini and Virgo, and the 3rd and the 6th houses. In the body, each planet rules a body part or parts. Mercury is in charge of the nerves. It's in charge of our lungs, shoulders, arms, and hands, because it's right in here, especially thanks to Gemini. All right. So how do we know what sign a planet is in? Here's a little more science behind everything. So here the example. The blue thing, of course, is us on Earth. And I know this is the best picture I could find of it. I should put Mercury in the center, but the sun is there. So, for example, here's the Earth. We look straight out to where the sun is, and on the other side of the sun is the zodiac belt, because the zodiac belt is outside of our solar system, just so we can see it, right? Just a place in space. And we're looking out and we can see, oh, look at that, the sun is in Sagittarius. So on this day, the sun was in Sag. So if we pretend it's Mercury, Mercury was in Sagittarius at the time that you were born. The Earth is going to be somewhere when we're born, right? Somewhere around this circle here. It's not even a perfect circle, but it just is drawn that way. So somewhere around this circle is where the Earth is going to be on the day you're born. Say you were born over here. And we would look straight across the chart to see where Aries See where Mercury is. What we have to do is we just have to see, and that means the sun would be near there too, because Mercury doesn't go that far from the sun. It's right next to it. So that's how we know what sign a planet is in, right? We look at where you were born, the day, time, and place. You know, that latitude, longitude makes a difference. And then we look out into the solar system as if the earth is clear, and we look out into the solar system to see where the planets were at the time that you were born, and they're going to be around us somewhere. And of course, nowadays, the software does it for us. But if you're interested, go out in the night sky and start following the planets. It's easy to do and a lot of fun. And if you need a reference, if you want to learn astronomy, get in touch with me, because I learned astronomy this year from an incredible astrologer who is an incredible astronomer, and it is something that you really want to know because it ties everything together. It's wonderful. Moving on. All right, let's get started. Of course, Aries is always first, and any of you who have Mercury and Pisces, well, then just scroll ahead if you don't want to know all of this information. Mercury in Aries in the birth chart. This is us as an independent thinker. We're quick, we love new ideas, and we easily inspire others into action. It is so much the go-getter. New idea, new idea, new idea. This is what we do when we are born with Mercury in Aries. Now, the sun isn't going to be too far from Mercury because Mercury cannot go that far from the sun since it's inside our orbit. So there's a pretty good chance the sun will either be in, if Mercury's in Aries, the sun will be either in Pisces, Aries, or Taurus. So everybody stays really close together when they're inside our orbit. So we have a lot of familiarity, there we go, with this sign because a good chance our sun is there too. So Mercury in Aries, very independent, very forward thinking as far as let's do this, let's get these plans done. Now, as a transiting planet, that's definitely a period. As a transiting planet, where it is today, it is in Aries on the day I'm recording this, and it's retrograde in Aries the day I'm recording this. I've created this a long time ago, but I'm just recording it now. So when we have this transiting planet, overall, everybody feels like we're moving too quick, we're talking too fast, people aren't listening to us, but there's a lot that needs to get started. It is retrograde, so I will address that right now. The retrograde does not have to mean that it is the end of the world and it's a bad idea to sign contracts. It's just the way I feel. I don't feel it's a big deal. I feel it's important to slow down, though. Because when Mercury retrogrades, it gives us an opportunity to slow down, to see things for what they are instead of in a blur. It's just like, you know, you want to see the country and you get on the fastest highway you can and you just never stop to see any of the sights. So when Mercury retrogrades every couple, 1, 2, 3 times a year, most of the time it's 3 times a year, we are going to get an opportunity to at least sightsee and understand a little bit more about the sign that it's in while it's in a retrograde motion, okay? Because crappy stuff happens all the time, and it doesn't always mean Mercury is retrograde. So when Mercury is transiting through the sign of Aries, we feel that need and that energy to push forward and to get things done. But as it's retrograde, as it is this year that I'm recording this in Aries, we're having to slow down and put the, pull the reins and slow down a little bit. It's the way it goes. It's not the end of the world, though. All right, moving on to Mercury in Taurus. In the birth chart, when Mercury is in this sign, we're slow thinking, we're methodical, very different than Aries. Taurus is fixed earth. So we're a hands-on person. We think and learn using our hands. It's just so important that we're able to see how to do things. That's that kind of a thinker. It's not necessarily the Gemini thinker. We'll get to that in a minute, but it's more being logical, practical. I need to do these things with my hands. As a transiting planet, so the overall energy everybody gets to feel is people are talking about gardening, because usually the sun's going to be near Taurus. So we're talking about gardening, northern hemisphere, it is spring. We're talking about the things that we value, what we love. It is very important for us to communicate how we feel about the things that we love and what we value. This is what we get to do a lot when Mercury is in the sign of Taurus. Hit the wrong button there. See if we can get to the next There we are. Mercury in one of its ruling signs, which is Gemini. So Mercury in Gemini, we tend to be somebody who values talking and listening equally. We should. We should. Now, it might take maturity or a lot of life lessons to figure out that we need to do one of these more or less. I know many, many people with Mercury in Gemini that are talkers and they never listen. And then I do know some Gemini, some people with Mercury and Gemini that are really great listeners, but they're fearful, maybe not fearful, but they just don't feel like they need to speak up too often. All right. So sometimes that happens. It's an air sign. So it's very analytical and thinking. And anybody who has Mercury and Gemini is definitely going to be great at Trivial Pursuit. Let me tell you. And they're just full of all kinds of little tidbits of knowledge. Me being a Gemini, and you guys follow me, I do lots of astrological tidbits all the time. That's the Gemini in me. It's not super deep. Doesn't mean I can't go deep, but what I want to present isn't. It's on the surface so you can get an interest, and then we can go deeper from there. So Mercury in Gemini, we love conversation, information, and knowledge. As a transiting planet and the overall energy, everybody gets to feel as we feel like we're on a roller coaster and life is like we're getting dragged along like really, really fast. So this can be difficult if your Mercury is in a fixed sign or in an earth sign. This energy can just feel really overwhelming. But because we're just going to talk. Lots of news, lots of information coming at us, hard and heavy, fast. We get overwhelmed easily during the transit of Mercury in Gemini. And again, this will vary from person to person because the condition of your Mercury, meaning what sign is it in, how compatible is that to, say, for example, Gemini. If it's compatible, this won't be a problem. If it's not compatible, it will be a problem. Same thing with the retrograde of Mercury. If you're born with Mercury retrograde, because it happens, like I said, it's a third of the year, it's retrograde. If you're born with that, then that's going to be your time of year where you're going to be able to assimilate information a little bit easier than other times of the year. There we go. All right. So much more. I keep forgetting where I'm supposed to click. I can't see my mouse. There we are. All right. Next, Mercury in Cancer. This is where I have it. So I feel like I'm an animated communicator. I communicate with feeling, and it's important. Family interaction is so important to me, even though they can be the biggest pain in my butt. Everybody has family like that, right? So when I'm emotional about something, that's that Cancer energy. I need to talk it out. If I'm feeling certain way, it's so important for me to talk it out. I don't always want to because my moon's in Capricorn, but Mercury and Cancer people tend to want to talk it out eventually, all right? And very sensitive to other people's emotions, especially when people say things in a certain way. You're really going to be picking up on what the emotional charge is, a little more than other people, with different Mercury signs. When Mercury is transiting as into the sign of Cancer, so the overall energy everybody feels, news and communications are emotionally charged, and there is a lot of talk about home and family, and the news is going to be extra emotional. They're just going to say all those key words that just instill emotion in us, because when we feel an emotion, we connect to it. Make sure when Mercury is in the sign of Cancer, and pay attention to my daily forecast. I'll let you know about it. It is, we will have a bigger emotional charge going on in our life, okay? So, especially if we're not used to it, it can be difficult. Now, moving on, here we are at the next fire sign of Mercury in Leo, because we started with Aries. That's a fire sign, so we've gotten into 4 now, and this is the 5th sign of Mercury. So in the birth chart, when we have a person with Mercury in Leo, they're going to be very active, very passionate, very enthusiastic, and creative in the way they speak. We all know who Leos are, because they're either going to talk really loud, very gregarious. Sometimes their Mercury may be connected to the sun, right? Because You know, the sun's, again, like I said, not that far away. It's only one sign either way, or the same sign. So we're feeling they're fiery. It's fixed fire. So when they've got their mind set on something and the way they want it to be, then they're going to really feed that to everybody and make sure everybody knows how they feel. As a transiting planet, so the overall energy everybody tends to feel is we feel more passionate than usual. We're incredibly passionate about the words we're saying and in projects that we have going on, feeling very creative because, again, remember, Mercury is the hands and the arms, and Leo is being creative. So this is a great opportunity to do a whole lot of things. It says we're like a swarm of bees looking for some place to go and something to do. I don't know why I wrote that. That doesn't seem appropriate. Actually, it does. Yeah, it does. It's just like we just get all this stuff going on in our heads and we're just like, we're ready to go for it. So that is Mercury in the sign of Leo. Now, Mercury in its own sign, its second ruling sign, this is Virgo. So Mercury in Virgo, we're very focused on those details. This is perfect for the person who's the editor. It's very analytical, very precise. I'm telling you, people who have the Mercury in the sign of Virgo, and even if you have Scorpio too, Lord God Almighty, you guys are perfectionists. And if anybody needs things in perfect order, you're the one that they should hire. So check out people's charts. If you're an amateur astrologer, find out what their Mercury is in, and that will tell you how analytical and how precise they can be. That can be a pain in the butt for some people to listen to if your Mercury is just anxious and nervous and just wants to get moving and going. So if you have like a fire sign Mercury, you just want to go, 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 or an air sign Mercury, even though this is in his own rulership, it can still be really annoying for some people to hear all those details. Not everybody wants to hear all the details. And so as a transiting planet, the overall energy, everybody feels people are being way too picky. People are going to start being picky because not all of us are used to Mercury in Virgo, so it's going to feel uncomfortable. We have that heightened sense of paying attention to the details. That is mainly the energy of Mercury in Virgo. We do have very earthy, very down-to-earth conversations as well. Virgo is the sign of the harvest, so it could very well be that you've just completed, when Mercury is moving through the sign, we've completed a lot of work and we're really pulling everything together because that's what the harvest is all about. All right. Next, Mercury in the sign of Libra. In the birth chart, when Mercury is in Libra, communications need to be fair and balanced. We do our best to see both sides of a situation. These are people who can be really big, really smooth talkers. Mercury in Libra is lovely energy. They can also say whatever needs to be said so the balance is not set out of, so things are not set out of balance. If there's too much on one side of the scale, not enough on the other, we get way out of balance. So if just saying a little white lie is okay, just stretching the truth a little bit or not telling the truth just to keep harmony, that is a potential for Mercury in Libra if you're born with that. Now, as a transiting planet, the overall energy everybody gets to feel is really, of course, all of this is very similar to the natal chart, but it's moving through the system. It's moving through us. So most of us will be trying our best to be easy on the truth, trying not to hurt feelings, honest communication, but very, very diplomatic. We're looking for diplomacy and we're trying to get our truth across. Mercury in Libra. Mercury isn't naturally an air sign when it's in Gemini, so it's okay in the sign of Libra. It does not have a problem there. It is okay at finding balance. But how well it works for you will just vary, again, depending on where it is and where Libra is in your chart and what your Mercury looks like. That all comes down to having personal knowledge of your chart, and of course I can tell you too. So shoot me off a quick email with your birth info and I will tell you where your Mercury is and you can come back and look at what we got going on, okay? I will do that for you. Okay. Next. You guys, my info is, you know, in the text box below all of these videos. So you should be able to find me no matter where this is running. And it's at the bottom of each of these slides too. So Mercury in Scorpio. Mercury in Scorpio. This is an interesting one in the birth chart. Here we communicate with intensity, strong and perceptive. We go very, very deep when it comes to Mercury in Scorpio. This is about research. Remember, I just talked about Virgo, and those are the details, but Mercury in Scorpio goes a step further, and it is not superficial at all. Mercury in Scorpio loves details, but the details that are more like research. So getting deep into all kinds of things is so important with Mercury in Scorpio. This is the person you want if you need any research work done, somebody with Mercury in Scorpio. Now, while it's a transiting planet, the overall energy that everyone gets to feel is we have to know what's going on beneath the surface. We have a feeling that there's something there that we excuse me, have not been, and we need to dig in deep, and we have not been told all of the truth. And it's not about lying, but it is about keeping the truth, keeping things hidden that are super personal and super private. So when Mercury transits through Scorpio, we're looking to find a way to really dig in deep so we can make some personal internal changes that it's just time to do. A lot of these things will come through, and they're a natural process. So we don't have to feel the sharp energy of a shift, but it's usually a natural process. The normal length of Mercury moving through a zodiac sign, it's almost normal, unless it's going to retrograde in that sign. It's usually about 3.5 weeks, 3.5 weeks. And so we only have a short period of time to dig in deep when Mercury is transiting through the sign of Scorpio. But if you're born with it, you are incredible at research and you want to know what's going on. You guys are not superficial at all about much of anything. It's a deep place for Mercury to be. And let's move on to Mercury in Sag. Now in this sign, it's opposite its natural sign of Gemini. So they say it's not in a great position in the zodiac sign because, you know, Gemini, Mercury in Gemini is all about, you know, the local environment and communicating locally. But when it's in the sign of Sagittarius, if you're born with it in Sagittarius, this is you seeking knowledge. This is the worldview. This is the philosopher. We love freedom of speech and thought, and we love to see the bigger picture. So, you know, the ancients in the traditional astrology, Mercury is in its detriment in this sign. But to me, you know, if you're born with this, you're accustomed to this. You're used to this. So Mercury in Sag, if you're born with it, what are you going to do? All right, you're going to seek knowledge a bit bigger than Gemini because, you know, we're kind of superficial anyways. And I'm not saying that negatively. Like I said earlier, I know deep things. I get it because I've been doing this for 30 years. That's not superficial. But I love giving people little tidbits of information just so I can plant a seed and then just go on and they can discover and dig in the way that they need to. This is Mercury in Sag. This is really giving somebody seriously something to chew on. Mercury in Sag, everybody I know has this. You're great writers, creative writers, because you can see the bigger picture. The freedom of speech, the love's freedom of speech, this is you telling the truth because Sagittarius is also the truth teller. So you can tell the truth, which means you can put your foot in your mouth all the way up to your knee on a regular basis. But you're also an incredibly creative writer, and because you can see the bigger picture. And words are bigger. It's as simple as that. The overall energy that we get, so while it's a transiting planet, the overall energy that we feel when it is out in the solar system moving through Sagittarius is we're finally inspired to look at the bigger picture, no matter what you are for your zodiac sign, sun sign, moon sign, rising Mercury. When Mercury is in the sign of Sagittarius at that time of year, we are looking at the bigger picture. We're looking at maybe expanding our information, expanding our knowledge, by experiencing it. Sag wants to experience things. So we learn through experiencing life and expand our education that way. And that, in turn, can even help our beliefs. And because Sagittarius has a lot to do, it's philosophical, but it has a lot to do with what we believe in and what we've been taught to believe in. So Mercury transiting in Sag has a lot to do with changing moods. Now, Mercury in Capricorn. So while it's in Capricorn, if you're born with it, this makes you a logical, a practical thinker, a practical communicator, very conservative here in logical interactions. There's no mincing words. It's not Gemini whatsoever. This energy, Capricorn, is actually quincunx Gemini, really difficult, right? It's difficult, and it's because if you're born with it, it's not difficult. Let's just get that clear. It is as a transiting planet. So let's clarify. As Mercury, if you're born with it in Capricorn, it is that logical, practical. Gemini, its natural ruling sign, is not a fan of being logical and practical. But if you're born with it, you will figure out how to use it. I'm strong with Gemini, Sun in Gemini, Moon in Capricorn. So I have this quincunx in my chart. And so it makes you have to figure out how to be fun and flirtatious, but you must do it in a conservative way. That doesn't seem like that's doable, does it? Mm-mm. So what's going to happen is, if you're born with Mercury in Capricorn, you're going to lean towards the Capricorn energy. You're going to be conservative, logical, practical, and no extra words is necessary with Mercury in Capricorn. As a transiting planet, the overall energy everyone gets to feel is conversations become serious. The news, all we hear for 3 weeks is serious stuff. Not a lot of fun, but there's a lot of opportunity for planning, taking charge, organizing things, getting your speech ready that you want to go in and sit down with the boss and say, hey, time for a raise. Look at all the work I've been doing. Or presenting a paper for school, whatever it is. Mercury, again, communication in Capricorn is a transiting planet. We have an opportunity to organize our mind, our thoughts, our words to advance us, Capricorn, in whatever's important for us. All right? All right, 2 more. Mercury in Aquarius. This is exalted in this sign when Mercury is in here. We love our friends. We love groups. We're out there being the rebel. We may have, I know a lot of engineers with this energy, very inventive thinker, lots of original, unique ideas, but we're also really good at inspiring others to step up and stand up in groups that are important for them and get behind causes and just feel like, with Mercury in Aquarius in our birth chart, very much, I'm escaping words. See, I got Mercury in Gemini, and that's just kind of like flight and airy. Mercury in Aquarius is fixed air. And so we get a thought in our head. We get something going on in there, and we're not letting go of that idea. So I'm not much of a rebel in my life, but if I had Mercury in Aquarius in my natal chart, I would be. That is how we use Mercury in Aquarius. We're different, we're unique, we're a rebel, we need freedom to explore our ideas and expand the consciousness of humanity. All right. Now, as a transiting planet, these are the things, everybody feels it. Those are the things that we're going to be doing. We feel like a rebel. We feel like we need to push against the system and the need to express ourselves. We find unique ways, not traditional ways. We find unique and different ways to express how we're thinking and feeling. Mercury in Aquarius is a lot with social media and has a lot to do with technology. So when Mercury is retrograde in that zodiac sign, those things do have a tendency to have a few issues, but that's not the case at all in 2018. He won't be retrograde in this sign. So that's what we have with Mercury as a transiting planet. Now, the final one is Mercury in Pisces. Also not in the best place for him because he's opposite his natural sign of Virgo here as well. So in his detriment. But if you're born with it, this is how you already feel. I know a boatload of people with Mercury in Pisces. And when we have that, we're highly intuitive, very imaginative, incredibly poetic. Music is usually something that comes easy to you. And the only problem is staying focused long enough to do it, focused long enough to learn it, because we can really get lost in space, if you will, lost in our thoughts, lost in music. We could space out because Pisces really has a hard time knowing what boundaries are, but that makes you a wonderful dreamer and somebody who can really set goals based on long-term dreams, long-term goals, because that Pisces knows no boundaries, knows no limit. So it's not confining its thoughts and its ideas. But if you have that in your natal chart, Mercury in Pisces, make sure you keep track of your dreams, daydreams and nighttime dreams. They're so important for a person with Mercury in Pisces. And then for us, as a transiting planet, the overall energy everybody feels when it is in this sign is we may feel like we want to escape the harsher things in life, like going to the movies, hanging out at the bar, getting lost in a book, any of those things that can kind of blur the rough edges of life. So as Mercury is kind of moving through that sign once a year, we have an opportunity to just sort of chill out and relax and just get rid of those rough edges. It doesn't mean that stuff doesn't exist, but we can find ways to find our own inner harmony, inner peace, bliss, if you will, through meditation, through music, again, through just unplugging. That is one of the best ways to use Mercury in Pisces as a transiting planet. And so that is it. Whew, I talked fast. You can go back and watch this again. And if I misspoke, it's okay not to tell me. You can tell me. I tend to misspeak. Who doesn't, right? But here's my website, nhastrologer.com. You guys know me. I've been on here. I've been on YouTube since 2009. Astrologer. Started studying in 1980s. Yeah. I'm experienced, all right, and mature. So come to my website, comment here on YouTube if you like, and if I can do anything for you, please come and find me, and like, share, and comment below. Blessings and namaste. And as soon as I can figure out how to turn this off, I will.